Whoops. Hello. I'm gonna play more at Splatoon Raiders, and I'm not playing with my cam on today because I'm overwhelmed with offline shit. Don't really have the space. Don't want to be visually perceived right now. I need to gremlin mode. Subtech. Hello, tactical sponge boob. What are you up to? I played a shit ton of this offline. Yeah. This is the weapon I'm using right now. I gotta show my progress a bit. Here. I don't know if I want to listen to Charlie's new album right now, unfortunately. Didn't hear it now. Nice. Decompress a bit. I'm obsessed with the damn game. Oh wait, I have my cropping wrong for my stream. I left it open so I could check. Sometimes, oops. Because sometimes my capture card does not size itself quite right. That would have been weird. Let's see. Let's get down here and up top. Okay. With my astigmatism, I'm like, I can't tell if there's a thin line that I messed up or not. So, that looks good. Right. So good. So, I've upgraded my ship a bit. You can kind of tell the roofs on the rooms now. My current loadout, I have this level 28 4-star thermal umbrella. Pretty meaty. Got ignite and speed up on it. So for ignite, when a scorched salmonid is attacked by weapons, there's a chance, 15%, that wide-ranging flames will erupt from it and spread to nearby salmonids. And then the speed up, speed when swimming in ink or moving in kid form is faster, +1 level. That's nice, because being down there using like a shotgun, it has pretty far range, but to really be, fucking shit up, like I want to be down in the middle of everything, so I've been using that. And I've been going through and leveling up all of my tanks. I mainly use the purple one, super tactical tank, but there's the power tank and the super speed tank. I've leveled this one up once, so I'm just trying to level all of them up one time because I don't know if I'm gonna have kind of like a point I get to where I need to unlock leveling them all up to be able to unlock like this one, going another level up. And I'd prefer to do that now versus when I'm even further into the game. I've stuck with this style. I like it, this outfit. It's my favorite, even like of all the additional ones I've unlocked. I've unlocked this one and this one. I got this one for scanning all of my Splatoon amiibos, which sucks. Like, why? For having all of my other Splatoon ones, I just get one skin, and it's this. That one, which is pretty cute. This one, this one, this one, this one, this one from reaching level 30, one from being level 10. Clear 5 Dens, got that one. Clear 5 Sampling Dungeons, got me that one. Clear 5 Dungeons on Spicy or Harder, got me this one, which I think is really cute too. I just definitely prefer the one I'm stuck with, which you get really early on in the game too. from upgrading a weapon. You can upgrade every weapon. As far as I've got anyway, you can upgrade all weapons 5 times, or like +5 levels to them. And then you get this skin or outfit. I really like it, so I've stuck with this one. Every now and then I pretend I'm gonna equip a different one, and I don't. I'm also working on leveling up each of these, like the buddies. The bot buddy. So I'm on Fry right now. Got Shiver maxed out. I got Manta, like Big Man's Manta Dance. I leveled him up one time by playing with him in my party a lot. And I just want to get these two, like, the one time. Because might as well while I'm working on my tank. And I really like that in this game, you can go to the map. And on the top right, it says Go Help. You can press minus, and you get help bonuses for going and helping people who request help with certain dungeons or boss fights or, you know, levels, whatever. So I did that a few times. It's really fun. I did it a few times until someone left toward the end. I think it was in the very final, like, 30 seconds of the game, and so we didn't get any loot. And I probably stopped doing that, but I want to do some of that tonight too. I'm gonna chill and play Splatoon. It's so cute. It's so good. Truly, I was saying it's gotta be, I don't know, it's probably gonna be one of my top games of this year. And definitely, I think, one of the best games on Switch 2 so far. Like one of the best Switch 2 games, for sure, easily. And I've made it all the way around the circle. Right here. You can pop up this dungeon menu. And I'm level 32. I'm trying not to progress, like, to fly by a bunch of things. You can go back and do things on spicy difficulty to get more loot, more items, and it is more difficult. Maybe I'll just try this one right now. Probably. Like, Splatoon has always been so satisfying, but another nice thing about this game, compared to the other Splatoon game, of course, like Splatoon 3, the other most recent, that you can press pause, and it pauses the game since it's a solo game, or like a, you know, PvE game. You can actually stop it mid-match, which is nice. So this one, you can charge it. And I've added a ton of gears onto my weapons. And I've just been trying to kind of get familiar with everything, but I've not really done much with the story. Other than like the normal stuff we go up, nothing major has happened. No. Frick. Yeah, exactly. It's that satisfying. Or like, Mega Bomb. And then this tank, this orange one, I've not unlocked a ton with yet. So my abilities for it are not the strongest. And with this being a level above me right now, this like map area, I might die, but if you die, first just leaving it, you do get to keep at least the like currency stuff that you unlock, that the experience points kind of thing. Crystals, whatever they're called. There's just so much happening. eggs right here. Drill, baby, drill. Oh god. Dang, that just took a little bit of my life force from me. Okay. For this, I'm trying to get to that middle line of the crystals, so I have to go around and drill all these little nodes, I guess. Oh. Ooh, let me see this one's building. Go away. Little hairs. I don't know what that big salmon was. Kind of looked like a trash, dude. It might have been like from, you know, like the nets. It might have been wrapped in net and then had a bunch of random trash in it, but don't remember what it looked like. I know the one you're talking about though, that like gets that big old bubble on the top of its head. I gotta shoot at. Or did I just stand still? It's like fishnets on. There's so many different salmon types though in this game. I feel like there's a lot of new ones because there are a lot I don't recognize, but I'm also, I don't have visual memory at all, so could be shit that I do know about. And I just can't remember. Ooh, something. Oh. That must be a gear to add to my weapon. Explosion areas. I want to make sure I don't miss any crates too. Over there. Yeah, this game I almost didn't go live to stream it because I can so easily go non-verbal playing shit. It's so good. Hyper fixate on it, and then it's just like nasty. Love it. I love being able to go back to the levels too and like complete them on a harder difficulty. Like it's nice like head and like I do have to pay attention and drive, but not having to pay attention to like dialogue non-stop. So it's a good thing to be playing alongside a bunch of story stuff that I haven't finished. I almost died. And you can, like, go drill the, like, big gem cluster thing when you get to that halfway point, but I try to fill it because you get 2 times the, like, loot. And of course, you're more likely to have other weapons and stuff drop, too. Ooh. Research. Good. So that must have been a new thing. It was called a steam head? I don't know. I feel like I'm gonna get short. To like turn on turbo mode. I'm not following you. I'm controlling. I shall fix peanuts. I want to go to that other anomaly one. Like, better chance of good loot drops. Wait. Huh. Must have accidentally, like, combined those waves of enemies. Oopsie. And I might end up playing music along this, like with this too, but we'll see. Because I don't mind the like music for the game. Too. It's good. Sound effects for the game in general are pretty nice. Intensely sleepy. Uh-oh, I'm dead. Damn. Loki thought maybe I wasn't dead yet, though. Gotta admit. Usually you get like 3 tries or 3 lives, but I'm on my last one already, so not looking great for me. Okay. I'll probably go drill the big crystal right after this one. I do have my ult, so I could push it. Push it for the loot. There's some crates over here that'll get me to it without having to fight a bunch of stuff. Oh, I'm fucked. No. Oh, I screwed myself. I just wasted my ult because I panicked. No. Oh my god, I'm fucked. Wait, I might go literal god mode. One. Oh no. I'm pushing up. Look at this one. Oh my god, the tower's so tall. That's a goal that would be so nice right about now. I have to be stopped. I'm too good. It's really fucked up. Now I gotta go turn this shit in. There's no shot I push it again. I do have my ult again, so it is tempting. Mental illness within me. Let's try and die. I'm gonna be responsible. Unless... Yeah. 1.8. Close enough to 2. Oh, fuck. I was not paying attention. Well, like, I went to grab my drink. What I got? You get a lot of shit. Ooh. I can power my other tank up now. We're doing that. Easily. Ultra tactical tank powered. Ooh, I can have 3 freaking gadgets. You can also equip a gadget to A. You can equip 1 power tank gadget and relic power. What the fuck? What does that mean? What? Gotta get rid of these pop-ups. Ooh. Lifeguard Splattershot Jr. It's just difficult because this one hits someone, but oh well. Maybe I'll try a faster gun right now though. How'd I get that? Probably from leveling my tank up, I guess. Power up any tank twice. Wait a minute, this one's got red laces. I don't fuck with dogs with red laces, or combat boots with red laces. Isn't that like a dog whistle for Nazis? Slash the Proud Boys. Of course, this is not a game like in the US though, and I don't know what that really looks like globally. if that's understood as a symbol for that or not, but I'll stick with my same old, same old. Yeah, the tactical tank is sick. But I really like this one. I like the markers that I got that are like airbrush markers. Use gadgets. Oh, I guess how could I go to this to show the gadget without equipping them? I go through this menu. Upgrade tanks. My HP, my weapon damage, or my gadget damage. How do I do my weapon damage just to get everything to 100, and then I still haven't decided what kind of weapon I prefer. I feel like I haven't had that many yet that have been really good. Like they're all pretty good, but for like long term, going back into levels and stuff and grinding, I'm less sure. Maybe, since I'm using a quick gun right now, my impulse is to level my gadget damage. Or is to level my weapon damage. But if I was going to stick to stuff like the umbrella, I feel like I would want to level my gadget damage because I'm throwing that shit forward and then doing like, you know, occasional big meaty hits with my larger weapon. So like with that shotgun, essentially, kind of what it functions as. I don't really care about my HP that much until I'm dying, and then I do care, but you know, that's less exciting to level. Weapon damage for now. Yeah, Mary Poppins their ass. I saw someone mention like some conspiracy theory or like fan theory people have where like Pennywise and Mary Poppins and someone else are the same person, same entity, like the same spirit, evil spirit, even though like I know it's just like people, you know, making up stuff, but what was the other character? Shit. Here, I'm gonna Google it quick. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. Mary Poppins, Pennywise, theory, minus AI. Oh, yeah, okay. Which, do you want to do our fan theories and read that? There's a BuzzFeed article, of course. Oh, it's the Cat in the Hat from the real Cat in the Hat movie, and that's what really caught my eye. I was like, this is actually the most diabolical shit I've ever seen. Hold up. I'll pull it up. Let me see. Wait, I need to add Cat in the Hat. That it isn't just explaining the connections between those two. And Cat in the Hat theory, minus AI. Someone has an Instagram reel. Let me see how many views this has. Okay. I'll play this. I'm gonna put it on stream. Hold on. Window capture. This. Firefox. Loop. Okay.
Poppins and the Cat in the Hat are all the same species? Let me explain. So as we know, all three of them are supernatural entities that interact with children. But instead of feeding on the same emotion, each one survives on something different. Pennywise feeds on fear, Mary Poppins seems to thrive on joy and imagination, and then there's the Cat in the Hat who seems to feed on fun and chaos. And what's even stranger is all three mysteriously appear, seem to change a family's life, and then disappear just as suddenly. The adults are either oblivious to what's going on, or they just simply forget. Another thing is how similar their powers are. All three of them have the exact exact same power of reality manipulation, and they can create objects out of thin air. They ignore the laws of physics and seemingly travel between worlds or dimensions. I'd also like to point out that all three of them seemingly come and go, whether it's on a yearly cycle or whenever the children need them. Of course, as of yet, there's no official connection between the characters, but the similarities are impossible to ignore. But I want to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and follow for more.
So yeah, I wish there was more details because that's like so basic. I want to see someone who really like dug in and like explained some shit. Been advanced, ooh. Okay. Let me open this. There's another YouTube link that says it expands on the theory. Screen Rant. Do we want to watch this quick? I'm down to play it. Do you want to see this tag? Or should I play Splatoon? Should we take a little detour and listen to this 10-minute video? Actually, okay, I am, because I'm too curious. We're gonna do a little reacts real quick. Let me mute my game audio for myself. I muted it for y'all, but I could still hear the little background Splatoon music.
I know we do quite a bit of silly theories on this channel, but this one will probably sound like the silliest one to date. Despite its astronomical levels of absurdity, there's actually quite a bit of hard evidence that suggests that the lovable nanny Mary Poppins
Let me know if it's too
is
quiet or
actually
not.
directly correlated to the terrifying killer clown from the It novel and movies, Pennywise.
We'll float down here.
Yes, get your laughs out now, because you won't be laughing once I explain this one. Look, I'm aware that these two characters would typically never be compared, but they're actually a heck of a lot closer than you may think. Let's start by examining the timeline by which they operate. Both have a tendency to come and go, often staying gone for years on end.
Bill,
Okay.
it's back.
To be exact, the film Mary Poppins Returns, starring Emily Blunt, takes place 25 years after the events of the original, marking 2.5 decades
So
before
there's
her
still
triumphant return to
time and
17
space
Cherry Hill
and
Lane.
the universe they exist in,
Conversely,
yes.
in It, Pennywise leaves for 27 years, just slightly longer, before returning to torment the fictional town of Derry, Maine once again. Okay, so not exactly the same amount of time, but pretty darn close. Plus, they both come back to regenerate energy from a brand new group of young children. That's sort of like their life source in a way. Although one survives off
Wait,
of
so
joy
with
and the other
then would the woman from The Woman in Black or whatever, would she also be Pennywise? That's because fear is some good protein. Yeah, they use, well, Pennywise uses the fear to make them taste better, yeah.
survives off of fear.
So I don't know.
I'll leave it up to you to connect the dots on which one's which. Perhaps joy is slightly more valuable, like putting premium gas in the gas tank.
Wait, but this
as
one
opposed
doesn't
to the
have the
ordinary
Cat in the
stuff.
Hat listed.
By the way, does that stuff really make a difference?
6 years ago?
What is the difference? Is there pulp in the ordinary stuff? I don't know. Anyway, it stands to reason that both Pennywise and Mary Poppins live off of the energy they get from children.
What
Just
the hell?
on opposite ends
My
of the
YouTube
spectrum.
auto playing when I fall asleep
call
has
it
to
the
be stopped, because
Monsters,
what the
Inc.
fuck is
theory.
this video? Oh,
If
it's
you'll
by
recall, the
Hassan,
main
never
plot
mind.
of that movie
It's like,
was
what the
about
hell is
scary
this? It looks
monsters
like
using
V for
children
Vendetta
energy.
shit.
Only it took the entire film for them to figure out that laughter was actually more valuable than screams. Could Pennywise and Mary Poppins both belong to the Monsters, Inc. universe? I think that's another video for another time, but they absolutely use the same method to harvest their powers. They also have a tendency to return to the very same kids that they originally visited. Mary Poppins returns to the Banks kids as an adult, whereas Pennywise comes back
I
to
don't
torment
think I've
the Losers
seen
Club,
that. Must
who
like
have
clearly
since
that's a
grown
new
up.
Mary Poppins. I haven't
What's
seen that.
fascinating is that in both versions, the grown-up kids completely forget their experiences with these supernatural beings. I mean, that's a
Or
bit
maybe I
odd,
haven't. I
no?
just forgot. Yes.
Would you forget a nanny like Mary
But I
Poppins who
picked
had
the
such an
original
impact
one.
on your childhood? You definitely wouldn't forget the nightmarish killer clown that tried to haunt you. I feel like that one would stick with a person. Both groups eventually do remember once their respective visitor
Repress the
shows up
memory.
and begins reminding them. Speaking of them coming back, it's also worth noting their paralleled origins. Mary Poppins comes from the skies above, whereas Pennywise comes from the sewers below.
Like
The
Pokemon.
symbolism isn't lost on me either. After all, we all know what's supposed to be up there, and on the other hand, what's apparently... It should be noted, however, that not all good things come from above, and not all
It's alright.
bad things come from
It'll
below.
be fine.
The aliens that invaded New York in the Avengers movie came from the sky. Meanwhile, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles live in the sewers beneath the city.
Hey,
I wonder if Michelangelo or Donatello ever ran into Pennywise
what the
down
fuck?
We are so Ninja Turtles right now.
We kind of are.
Another interesting similarity between the two characters is their tactics. They're both really big into luring. I haven't done much luring of anything
Bro, that's like
or anyone personally, but
everyone ever.
these two love to lure.
It makes no sense to take a bath this early.
Wait! I want to take a bath.
And it's not just that, they both lure children named Georgie away from their siblings.
You need to be more careful when the wind rises, George. You nearly lost your kite. And you too nearly lost your Georgie.
I don't know what it is about that specific name, but there must be something extra enticing about kids named Georgie.
Hiya, Georgie.
Both occasions happen in pretty turbulent and rough weather conditions as well.
Well, I would imagine it's
Furthermore,
because
they
Hollywood
both lure
was
children named Georgie
predominantly
away from their
comprised of
siblings in bad
white
weather
men,
conditions by using the
and for some
kid's
reason they
paper
fucked with the
toy.
name Georgie.
Mary Poppins uses Georgie's kite, while Pennywise uses Georgie's boat. I mean, they're mirror images of one another, people. The exact same thing happens in both movies, only one makes you scared and the other makes you feel good. If I'm being honest, I'm
They're clearly related because in both universes, humans wear clothing.
usually feeling both of those emotions anyways. Meanwhile, the
No
parents in
offense
both
to Screen
situations
Rant. It
are
is a fun
completely
video, but
oblivious to the situations that their
so far,
children are.
I'm not hearing anything that's like I think the idea of it and proposing that hypothesis is funny, but so far none of the evidence. Like, I want brain rot, creative writing, theory crafting here, and so far it's not giving me that. It's like, well, in both of them there are children, and in both of them there's the one person you focus on. And oh, clearly because both are named, there's Georgies in
Experiencing.
both of them. They are
There's all
related.
this
Is there a Georgie in the Cat in the Hat? Oh, I can't just Google it on my computer right now because here, let me Google it on my phone. Is there a Georgie in Mary Poppins? Minus AI. I did minus QI, but it still worked. It didn't pull up AI. Oh, there is. Wait, no shit. There's one in Mary Poppins. I typed in Mary Poppins, not the Cat in the Hat. My dumbass. Cartman gets his invisibility powers. He's just like Pennywise. Yeah, for real. There, Georgie in Cat in the Hat. Minus AI. The girl's name is Sally. I don't think there's a Georgie in the Cat in the Hat. Its name's Cat in the Hat. Minus AI. Cat in the Hat movie. Realism movie. Minus AI. Nah, you know what? It would pop up by now.
wild and absurd paranormal stuff going on, and the
I'm
parents are just blind
thoroughly
to
confused.
it. In a way, both films are a chilling statement on the state of modern parenting. Or not. Yeah, probably not. But seriously, shouldn't they be a little more concerned about the whereabouts of their children and the fantastical entities that seem to have taken a liking to them? Maybe that's just me. Another similarity between Pennywise and Mary Poppins is the fact that they both have the
I'm pretty sure in both movies, they're living within populations or communities where they are like pushed to not be watching their kids as much. Like in Mary Poppins, they're supposed to be like gathering socially and they also have to work and shit. And then they have like higher up duties in society, I guess. I don't fucking remember. And then in the Cat in the Hat, isn't the mom kind of just like not the most responsible and she's like busy and shit? And then she gets the weirdo husband or something or
Power
boyfriend.
to use what's in a child's mind. Pennywise gets
And
into their
Pennywise,
mind
I'm
and
pretty sure aren't they in the Derry? And like there's traumatic violent history with the town
learns their
beyond
fears
just
to use
Pennywise.
against them. On the flip side, Mary Poppins
I
uses
didn't
their
neglecting it.
imagination
Yeah.
to capture their minds. Poppins uses the kids' imaginations to take them into a wonderful, colorful world of wild animated friends, while Pennywise uses their fears to tap into their worst nightmares. In a way, they're both kind of magic, right? Like, both examples are really bordering on the cusp of mind control. They pretty much alter people's thoughts and memories. For all we know, Mary Poppins is just a really nice and caring witch. Her tactics have witchcraft written all over them. Sure, she's friendly,
And
but she also gives off some serious witchcraft vibes. For crying out loud, she flies around using her umbrella. Do you know what witches fly around on? Brooms.
nothing because
You
they
know
don't
what
exist.
umbrellas and brooms have in common?
Oh my god, Splatoon! Bro, full circle moment.
I don't own either. Perhaps my favorite similarity between the pair is the fact that they both love to sing and dance, and they know how to use their abilities as natural entertainers to their advantage. The lovable nanny performs a bevy of musical numbers throughout her movies. Meanwhile, Pennywise literally refers to himself as Pennywise the Dancing Clown.
Well, I'm Pennywise the dancing clown.
So they both
He
know how to
dances
move their
for Beverly in
bodies.
Chapter 1 and sings for Richie in Chapter 2, showing off both aspects of his strangely human talents.
Okay, I just realized too, I'm watching this under the Splatoon tag. What if some like literal child clicks this? Hold on. Also, I'm not entertained enough, low-key. No offense to the video maker. It was 6 years ago. I think I'm safe to say that I'm not hearing much. It's just literally saying they're human and they're human and they both know how to dance and also they're human. Oh, and they're both magical. Oh shit. Okay. Back to freaking business. I was gonna show the gadgets I had. I guess I can show them here. So, I got this one. It's basically like a like paint markers. It's like a airbrush machine that adds that damage. These lines, which is really nice. I like this one. This weapon. And then this ult, it's a vortex down. And it lasts for quite a while and just does that nice AoE stuff. Okay. Now I can add another one. So, I guess I could just add any one of these now. Which one's this? I don't remember what this one does. Flash one. This, oh, this puts them in a circle around me. I kind of think the turret would be nice. Because that'll actually target like multiple areas because both of these kind of are set once I toss them out. This one can aim further. I like the turret ability, it's very good. I don't want to equip that gadget. I don't want to equip that either. I'm going to use the turret. Let me make sure though. Might have better like, things to equip on it. With that now. And this one. explosive finale. Okay. I can see why I did that. And for this one, suction force up, because might as well. Alright. And then I need to see if I can level this weapon up a bit. Should go to weapon stash. Also scrap that one. That. I guess I'll just scrap that too. Not gonna give me much. It might give me then just enough to be able to upgrade my gun one more time. Nice. And then because I switched guns and this one's not leveled up +5, I might die in the next area I go to. Oh, look at me. Ow. Where my eye am just falling out on my right ear. Can't upgrade that anymore. There's nothing else for me to add on. Let's see if I can develop any. Check for this. Okay. I need to go back out. Oh yeah, but there's this and she doesn't go. I'm gonna go back to the bot buddy, I think, or I haven't gotten the first scroll, so I'm gonna keep her, but I usually use Shiver. Because she has a giant shark that gets sent out for that ult. Supposed to follow the compass. I need to do more of these also. First, let me try to level up this gun. Start by going to... There's spicy. Ooh, I could go to this level 34. For the spicy raid. Ooh, all those like ability pop-ups being right there. Kind of confusing looking. Oh, yeah, I might die during this. I got my umbrella. Oh my god. Uh-oh. Okay, I forgot you call these ones down by going slightly under. Back out of it. And pop them up. And I have a gear on my little like marker thingy. That makes it so it auto fires if my shots hit immediately. It'll like auto detect that it needs to get fired off, which I like, because then it just fires directly toward ship I'm fighting. Dang. Okay. But that XP I should be able to use to level my gun up. Although it's hard to, deny that pulled out my ear. But that umbrella is really nice. And it might kind of low-key fit my abilities, like build better. First, this. It's nice being able to just pull it down. This one is really strong. Maybe I do kind of like this one. That puts like little spots around me and it spins around me. Might be more helpful to have that because it like does more damage. It kind of is around me. If I need to run from something and I'm moving backward, those damage points would all hit the stuff that's right in front of me. Let me try this one. Yeah. And like reload my ink. Yeah, that's smart. Put this right there. And then I don't know though, because does this show? If I show it, can I? Oh, it will show it. Okay. This is the Splatolites. They roll around me like a bunch of I keep forgetting what it's called. Beyblades. And there's this one where you zoom forward and slash. And this is like one big Beyblade. But I don't prefer that one. I think I will try this one. I'm gonna tinker with it. I would, I guess, have to make these, but let me see. I forget I don't have to run up to the stands. I can just pull up the menu just like in Splatoon 3 and stuff. This and this. Okay, I don't have enough to make any of this. Scorch would be good because I'm pretty sure there's an ability on my gun for Scorch. Yeah. Okay. When a scorched salmonid is attacked by weapons, there is a chance, 15%, that wide-ranging flames will erupt from it and spread to nearby salmonids. So I try to keep something that causes scorch on me as well, weapon-wise. But I'm gonna have to go back out again. Did it put the same one? Oh, it did. I didn't notice it did that the last, like, how many times I've run this. Every time I was pulling back up the list of levels and then, like, scrolling through them. Yeah. Already, looking better off. My like ult would be great right now. I can't see shit. well. I mean, it looked a little better though. I didn't die as much, I guess. I don't know. Well, let me try maybe something different level. This one's 26. But I hadn't beat it with... Here, let me change my bolt. At least it's easy to switch between all this stuff too. Okay, Bot Buddy. Let's do this one. This can all stay the same. And then here. Here. With that raid, you have to go back with each Bot Buddy and beat it, which is why they're colored accordingly with the Bot Buddy. Oh, I'm right on a bad. That's bad. This will at least get me some more crystals I can use to create gears for the object that I'm using. Level. So with these, usually I think go to a 3rd level for the ones that have these chests on them. And you have to beat each of the waves in a time limit while also not dying. And you beat them by getting the amount of power eggs that you need. Uh-oh. Running out of food faster. This should be the final area that's gonna have like the big main boss. Big Hall Mods. It's the one that comes out, like that big fight, dolphin. Combined with diving and dolphin. This one, you just have to beat the boss in the amount of time, but it just non-stop spawning other bosses and stuff. I can't imagine how wild this screen is about to look when I'm even further in the game. Oh my god. What'd I get? Night sky plate. That's pretty. That would be cute if I made that for my gaming room. Put on my wall. Got modeling clay. Or not modeling clay, but I have like model breed clay that I would have to fire in the kiln, but then I've also got like poly clay and stuff. Weapon stash. Oh, that's. Ooh, I barely got any of the like spiral things from doing that. Be cool to make a Splatoon character out of clay. Yeah. But like, if I was gonna like have anything, actually, honestly, yeah, that would be pretty cool. If I made one of like myself, not myself, but like, honestly, like my little dude or something. That'd be cute. I really like the little jellyfish in Splatoon, like their little glow sticks and shit. So damn cute. Over distance up. I don't really have enough to make anything. Hold on. I need this vertical reflection. Maybe I'll save my points for now. Oop. The soap bottle splatter shot is pretty good. I liked that one quite a bit when I was using that weapon. Bounce shooter optimized for range and ink coverage. Salmonids have a chance 2% to become frozen. Frozen salmonids can't move. Easy for anyone to use with a high rate of fire and no quirks. They allow a lot of flexibility when fighting. Honestly, this gun already is definitely better than the other one I started copying. Let me go weapon stash. Wrapped weapons. Ooh. Yeah. And also get rid of this one. And that's it. That currency back. Upgrade weapons. This one. And I might try using this weapon right now. Other ones. Didn't unlock anything new for those. Push map. Oh wait, I gotta switch back my battle bot. My bot buddy. And menu. It's this one. Let's see if I beat it out. Uh-oh. Spamming buttons. Good thing I don't die. Ooh. Got dead. Yeah, this shit's wild. Oh my god. Oh my god, I don't know how to do that. Damn. Okay, B. I also didn't use my, like, ult. Kind of forgot about it. This one, a shot is 1010. This one, ooh. It's all shot hit. All shots hit though. A single shot is still more, but it's slower. Well, I should stick with it. Panic Shack, upgrade tanks. Ooh, gadget damage. And then I should probably start leveling up my HP. Firelight shards. Okay. Another one. Whoa. Holy fucking shit. Well. Robot. Uh-oh. What's up? Oh, I didn't even try to use my ult again. That is tough. Go straight back out. Is there a lower level? I do this one. This one's 25. Bounce. I wonder what I had before that was helping me not run out of ink as fast. I feel like I'm really struggling to have enough ink now. Ooh. Perfume swatcher. I'm done. Good. Let's see. Nice. Ooh. Optimized for range and ink coverage. That's not sounding like something I want to use. At all. So I'm sticking with this one. And tinker with this at all. Nope. What about with this now? Sometimes you can unlock like lower ones that take up less slots but have just as good like return or stats. This is not the case right now. Actually, Gadget Workshop. Develop parts. He's 26. And then maybe after this one I'll try to go help someone, see if the bonus for helping other people also helps me out. Over here. Duration up. Cute. Cute. This one, tinker. That, and then repeller damage. I'm gonna do that. This. Go with it. Do that. Increase splatolite damage. And that should be good. Okay. $26. Still not ready. Whoop. is that? Ah. Yeah. I don't really care about the delivery distance. The next one we could craft would be then. Develop that. Develop that, because it'll do a lot, but it's less slots, since it's 3. Go here. Oop. That. And doesn't make it worth it. Do that. Okay. Open this. And I should do 22 of this. I don't get how I had the spice already too, but oh well. Oh, it's this one. It's like a race one. I suck at it. Whoop. Like I have to get all the way to the end in 30 seconds. Yeah. Like, I suck at this one. I tried it like 10 times earlier. Oops. God damn. Yeah, I suck at this one. Bad. Let me fail it. I don't feel like doing that right now. I'm gonna do literally every single other one. Hell no. Not doing that. Try this one on 35. I feel like now I'm better equipped to handle it. Maybe. Oh, fuck, maybe not. What the fuck? That's fucked up. Because all of these just like shoot me the shit from a distance. Or bombs and shit. was close. Ugh. Alright. Yeah, I have to go for it. Let's do 27. 27, maybe more doable. I'm clearly struggling. These ones, you have to search for treasure and you go around all the little notes again. But like the first one you did. Even up here, it's missable. Because when you're in the ink, you're this little squid. And you're shooting ink. Oh fuck. Did not notice that was up there in front. Which I'm sure was the intent. Oh fuck, I suck. It's this way. Okay. Right, this little shed. Oh, I thought I jumped. Oh, thank fuck, it's not water down here. 'Cause I would say... What the heck? I feel like my jump is messed up. In this controller, like my B button. That or I'm just not pressing it hard enough. Which is probably more likely. Okay. It's working out. There'll be some loot down here. Whoops. It's never a dead end. It's never a dead end, and it's never just a waterfall. Please help me. Anything that's left. Uh-oh. Okay. Is this the same size? Or is this the big, like, final one with the treasure? It looks like a big final one with treasure. Yes. I really need another god little outfit in this. Yo, mechanic, we gotta talk. Well, yeah. We've been on a bunch of raids together by now, huh? My eels get a kick out of fighting side by side with you. I can tell. Don't worry about their crazed eyes and snapping jaws. They're a bunch of sweethearts. I hope you love these cuties as much as I do, or those cuties. Speaking of which, how about my showstopper? It's something else, huh? The Moray Storm is the freshest, flashiest, funkiest dance of all the Onagaklian eel techniques. It gets results, which might be why Grandpa got mad when I busted it out in town. Busted in town. Here on the Spearlight Islands, I'm free to run wild, so take me on as many raids as you want. They say there's nothing stronger than my Moray Storm. Moray Storm, but I don't know. I feel like there's room to improve. I'll keep practicing with it until I'm stronger than strong, until I'm the strongest in the universe. And you'll get a front row seat to watch me climb to those heights. Ooh, unfortunately you're going back on the bench because I just wanted that one scroll. Yeah. Hate to see it. That is unfortunate. Oh well. Alright. I keep forgetting which button to press. Forgot, it'll like pop up a thing for me if I can do anything there. A little exclamation point. Let's see on here. Not even close? Alright. Holy. Back, you playing a game? Are you still just kind of sitting staring at the wall? New compass, huh? Let's see what it's reacting to this time. 29, 31. That I'm still surprised you haven't finished Lego Batman. Like the main story, or did you? I feel like last time I asked you hadn't yet. No. Just kidding. I wish that I was still playing it. I was sad once I was done with it. It was such a good game. Time with it is for sure. Not a bad thing at all. Feel your joke, but not to look my way. Okay, see. Like, I really, just in the last, like, few levels, basically during stream, my aim has become more difficult for me to control. I wasn't running out as much before, so I have to replace some ability and really kind of like nerf myself. You know what? No, I'm not doing that. This game, as a kid, would have gone wild. But I guess, you know, if I had a little more whimsy in my life, if I still had a little youth, I would be going freaking sick on my own dudes. Oop. Alright, whimsical. Oh my god, thank you so much. Fuck. How much whimsy I wanted to test out the apple. I still, like, you know what? I was upset that I didn't see more theory crafting for that Pennywise and Mary Poppins and shit. And then I remember, like, I'm a writer. Why don't I just fucking do it? I'll start working on that. That'd be kind of funny. That would actually be sick. Hold up. I'm gonna do that. I'm putting that in my notes. After this thingy. Holy, that's a tall one. Big stack, stinger. That's what they call my peanuts. Chat, if you were to say that about me, I would do. Okay, you can't say that on here. Okay, use Splatoon. There comes a point when you're just like spamming every button on your controller and fucking hoping something happens. Okay. Let's get a better gun. Actually, I think this is a lower level thingy, right? So it probably wouldn't even be helpful. Oh. Okay. Iron sleep mask. What the hell? Ooh. Aluminum twin cans. Nice. Actually might be alright. Another awesome fight mechanic. I feel like we've come a long way, but somehow not that far. The fog around these islands is mostly cleared up. One more push should do it. And let's not forget, we found another of those notes in the ruins we just cleared. Huh. What am I looking at? They seem to have been quite the inventor. But this? Wait, I knew this looked familiar. Aren't these parts for the bot and tanks? What? So the note writer designed the bot and the tanks? Then our mystery friend wasn't an explorer or anything but an engineer. It seems like this engineer was having trouble leaving the islands because of the fog. But why would someone try to leave the islands Someone trying to leave the islands make a treasure hunting bot. Imperialism. Neoliberalism. Who knows? Point is, we'd never have found our way to the gold without it. Once we had our hands on the gold, we should give the engineer a piece of the take. Didn't they live over 100 years ago? Bro, look at his face. Sorry, I gotta screenshot that, because what the hell? Speaking of the take, obviously you'll get a cut. Mechanic, don't worry on that score. As for how to divide it, I'd say a 90-10 split between us and the mechanic seems fair. Oh my god, that sounds just like people when they get drawn into a fucking management company. Predatory management company. Fair to who? You gotta factor in how much the mechanic has contributed. He's so cute. I love Big Man. Personally, I'd put it more at 30-70. What? Is your head stuffed with seaweed? Shit. It's gotta be an even 4-way split, you know. 30-30-30-30. Shit, don't let this fucking administration get a hold of this game. Perhaps you should use your 30% to pay for math lessons. No one appreciates the effort it takes to play the comedic foil. No time for self-pity. We've got gold to raid. Oh my god, he's so cute. I feel like I should start leveling my health up a little bit, huh? Unfortunately, because it's less exciting. Still don't have enough of that. Talking. Let me see that weapon I just got. The aluminum mechanics. An explosion occurs if a fermented salmonid is defeated with a weapon. And it has ferment on it as well. Salmonids have a chance, 2%, to become fermented. Fermented salmonids take greater damage. But I also want to go into my abilities and mess with that. Like my relic. No, which thingy? What am I thinking of? My relic powers, because then I throw these out and have them contribute to that buff. Let's see if I've got any of that versus like freeze or scorch. Oh, this one already has it, so I'm good. Airborne damage. Uppercut. Flatolites knock salmonids upward. Ooh, so that with the more damage to airborne would be sick. Let's do this, and then this. Ooh. Okay, I'll just do this for... Yeah, because I already have that vortex, and I think that makes them fly up. I could always just check, huh? Gadget creates a vortex. Its blades send it, salmonids flying. Yeah, okay. My relic powers. Salmonids that you touch while in swim form are scorched, +1 level. Scorched salmonids continually take damage. Scorch goes up to level 3. Damage is increased when you are in danger. Gadget cooldown shortens by 0.3 seconds every 3 seconds that you're in the air. I'm gonna do this one. Because if I'm having all of the enemies fly into the air right now, I don't know that I'm gonna want to be chilling up there with them, you know? Also, let me check out the damage of these guns. I do want to move on from my umbrella. Makes it kind of difficult that I have that set to automatically go off. Ooh. I'll level these up because they might. I think this is worth putting some points into. So this one on a single shot is 1246. This one is about the same already base. Okay, yeah. And it'll be a faster fire rate, and I might be able to manage my like ink better with this. Weapons, this one. And then let me see if I can scrap something that'll give me back. I don't know what kind of weapons I should be saving, and I kind of like the whimsy of not. I hate to say it. Kind of fun just getting rid of some shit. I'm gonna regret it later, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Let me level these up one more time. And it should be about, yeah, it's like just as good as the umbrella maybe. If my aim doesn't suck, which, you know, we've all seen my aim. That's a mess, literally, but that's alright. I hope I'm not reaching the end of the fucking game, actually. Hold up. There's no way, actually. Nah. No shot. This whole UI system reminds me so much of Donkey Kong Bonanza. I mean, I fuck with it. I like it. It's efficient. It's clean. That is cute, though. You get tossed to like one of those dog like fetch ball launchers. Sounds a lot quieter too. Oop. I just ate that for fun. Ride rails by hitting them with ink. Oops. Oh. Oh. Again. Oops. Oh shit. Okay. Can I go back? No shot. Oh. Not that bad, actually. That was about to be devastating if I couldn't get the final one. Oh. Oh wait, I remember doing this in Splatoon 3, and except in Splatoon 3 I was actually cracked and I didn't miss every single shot, trust. These guns are good. I'm not running out of ink every 3 seconds. Which is a lot of fun. I guess it must just like kind of fit my gadgets better. Oops. What the fuck? No one saw that? That is lava. What the fuck am I doing? Oh. Look, I got you. What the fuck? Did I need to be in like My normal form? Okay. Big fell away. I need to turn my other little fan on. It's so hot in here. I really feel like I'm missing. Oop. Never mind. Oh, no. Oh. I'm a completionist. So I went this way. Oop. I'm very curious about people and their mental well-being who play this with motion controls. They have to be like the best of us. Oh my god. It has to be like a special little boosty jump that I can do that I'm just not doing with that. Time to help this fish make off. Oh. Okay. Make sure I'm not missing any crates. What the fuck? What? No. No way, I have one last life. I forgot. Ooh, I gotta stop being so messy. There. And that'll do. Okay. Mute. I don't know what I did right that time. I think I just held it longer. Probably because I didn't jump at the last second. Oh, I'm dead. I aimed that at nothing. Damn. I didn't worry at all. Never questioned my capabilities. Yes. Hello. Turn on the fan. I also started getting my Halloween decor out today. I'm so excited. I went to Home Goods the other day and I got this ugly ass pig. Kind of cursed. Oh, I brought it up here actually. I don't have a picture of it though, so I can't show it on stream right now. Actually, you know what? I will. Let me get through these like menus. I'll send myself a picture of it. Maybe I can find a picture of it on Google. You might find stuff that helps you get stronger. Go back to place where we've already been. Okay. Oh, this is cute too. There's a little arcade machine on your boat. These little mini games. Has these on there. I would love to be able to play those like on my play date. Cute. But I'm sure there are existing little games for on that are probably similar in structure. Like a little juggling one where you have to like bounce the salmonids between both sides of the screen. A bunch of shit. They're pretty cute. They're the kind of little mini games where I needed to like unfocus my eyes. Okay. And try not to think too hard. Or I'm like purposefully, I guess, training my eyes to kind of go wall-eyed. For the love of the game. Right. Not going to be using any of those right now. I'm going to stick to that. Fire vortex. Vertically. That's good. Oh, wait. Huh. Wait, what? I was gonna act like I understood what happened, but I really didn't. I guess. Maybe I will do that, and then do that. Watch it. This one. Right. Let me take a picture of this pig. I'll show y'all. I keep getting nervous. One of my dogs is behind my chair. Picture of it with my phone. Right? You're not gonna believe this shit. Mine's about to be blown. Okay. Open up. I could send it to myself on Discord. Doop. There. God, if I accidentally sent, ever since I accidentally sent a message in the wrong Discord, and it wasn't even embarrassing, it just felt like weird to do out of nowhere, like having a conversation with myself in the middle of some other conversation. Like, damn, what if I sent a picture of that pig in some random Discord? Right. Pig. Save image. Pig. Add it to my OBS. Pig. Whoops. This is the pig. Told you, it's pretty good. It doesn't look chopped as fuck or anything, too. Glasses are so fucked up. Like, it was just so ugly. I had to have him. Like, and it was, let me see. I think it was like $14.99. Yeah, it was $14.99. Oh, that's my son. You guys hear me complaining about being broke? Keep this pig in mind, I guess. Alright, let me close Discord because my PC not handle running so much. Now, I'm gonna have to find a room for that in my backdrop. That's cute. That was the only one. Like it was meant to be. I'm gonna get the ugly little guy. The compass is fixed on something. It must be hidden somewhere on the treasure map. So I've done a lot of these. They're all of these like green books you see around. Here we go. The sampler dungeons. It gives you a specific weapon. In this one it doesn't have an ability listed, but in other ones you'll get a specific ability or gadget. And then you go through the little dungeon and kind of get familiar with all the guns. It's really nice. And then you use those little I don't know what the things are called. The little wrench, you see the picture of it? It's like that currency you use to upgrade your tanks. But from what I wanted to help other people. Let me do that now. Wait a sec. Go help. Hopefully I don't throw for some randos. Is Harry Porker. I don't want to think of J.K. Rowling when I see my ugly little freak, because he's an ugly little freak, but like, he's not that kind of ugly. You know? Oh my god, someone level 45, what the fuck? Please don't let me be up against people in that person's level. Because I'm gonna be so ass cheeks. Actually, I don't know if it scales the enemies to like their individual difficulty or what. Do so. What? Oh, hey Dougler, what's up? Thanks, mine's not bad. I hope you're having an alright day too. A lot of shit today otherwise. Really can't. Fuck, I'm dead. Not bad. I'm really, like, I don't know, do you have a Switch Jam? I'm fucked with Splatoon Raiders, it's so good. I tried not to get my hopes up before it came out. It ended up being great. And then we went over, I found out about the, like, theory that Mary Poppins, Pennywise, and the realistic movie version of The Cat in the Hat are all the same entity. So we watched a little, I can't remember whose video it was. Watched a few minutes of that. We're switching to Switch 2 next month or September. Ooh, shit. Indeed, that's exciting. It was really unfortunate when the Switch 2 came out because with how expensive it is, I really, like, I would have been disappointed if it wasn't as good as it was, or like worth it. But then also, like, it kind of sucked that it was worth it. Well, Ooh, I need to start that too. I prioritized getting through some games I had started and not finished, which is like a me problem for sure. I start so many games and never finish them. But I finally rolled credits on Procopia. I'm gonna have to play Star Fox next. Did you get the little, are you gonna get a switch to, not video, are you gonna get a switch to camera? Have your little Star Fox face moving around? I haven't looked too much into how it performs, like that aspect of it. Big stack stinger. Oh yeah, my peanuts. I heard really good things about like the remaster now. The remake, whichever. Yeah, Jesus. Camera. I do a barrel. Hell yeah. I was so sad that the fucking Piranha plant was dog shit. And honestly, if I had the income right now, I would have bought it just for like the fun of it because it's so bad. I think I was watching Swedish's stream and I think he pre-ordered it, and said it was shit. So I canceled mine, or had mentioned that it was gonna be like fucking 10. I really want like a cute little dumb camera, like with the Game Boy. Yeah, this item. It was such a neat idea too. So good in theory. I carried. No one look at the stats. Let's just pretend I carried. I did not carry. Ooh. Oh, I'm not even using that gadget. Never mind. Oh, bonus. Okay. Wait, I'm not even using that one. What's that? The hell? Not sure how there was a communication error when I was by myself. In-game right, I recently dropped. Yeah. This is the new one. Splatoon Raiders. It's a lot of fun. It runs really well. I can see why they had it separate. Because like so many of the abilities and weapons in this would just like break the fuck out of Splatoon 3. And I think they might have done it too, just talking out of my ass, but the help with matchmaking also, because I know trying to do the salmon runs in Splatoon 3, like I constantly had people leaving mid-game and then fucking us, so this one's nice. And you can also pause this one if you're playing it by yourself, which is nice. No, I don't want to do. Only downside was I don't know if you collect amiibo, but I do for just Splatoon and Zelda predominantly. And you get one outfit for scanning any of the existing amiibo. And it's this ugly motherfucker. Like on what planet? Why would I buy such pretty little amiibos just to look like this? But then if you buy, like, there's new ones for this game. You can have this one with Big Man, this one with Fry, and this is Shivers. It's pretty cool. Got an amiibo in your entire life. See, I hadn't until I think I started buying them during lockdown, just because I had so much mandatory overtime at my job that I had the extra cash. And I also hated buying Funko Pops, and those were really like popular around then. They felt like an actually useful little figure that was still not too bad. Now I know that the price for them can be kind of iffy, like they're not cheap, but yeah, the price of Funko Pops was wild. People reselling them and shit. No, I think the market for them like crashed, which sucks for people who invested big into a big Funko, but they did like manufacture so many of them that none of them are like limited anymore. There's too many. Like I know a lot of the used game stores and stuff stopped like accepting any of them to resell. For growing up, Beanie Babies was the hype. Yeah, I still have Beanie Babies from when I was a kid. I was big into collecting like Littlest Pet Shops though, and Calico Critters. And then I've always been like big into pigs, so I had a pig collection. And I'd buy those little animal figures from like Baumgars, which is a thing in the US. I don't remember. I don't know if I know where, like, what country, but I would go to Baumgars and buy those shits. I fall for the collecting stuff. The dopamine. Trying not to do as much of that, and honestly, these companies make it easy. But I do want the new freaking Amiibos, unfortunately. I almost said Funkos. Oh wait, what am I even doing? Where did I go? I just like head empty clicked some shit. Oh well. Oh, I guess that'll just crash down. No. I think like honestly it's been a couple years. I was going through I found my Beanie Babies, or got them from my parents' house. And I was kind of going through and spraying them with disinfectant. Just making sure they were clean without damaging them, because I still want to maintain them, even though I just put them back in the oven and in like a closet. But who knows, maybe when I die, someone else will want them. Yeah, I'm looking a little rough too. Thankfully though, I always kind of had like a collector, like the autism trait, and so like all of mine still have their tags on them and the protectors and stuff, but there were a couple that were looking a little fucked. Like I even still had some that were from like McDonald's Happy Meals that I still left in a little plastic, I guess. Which I don't remember doing, but good job of me of the past. Yeah, I forgot about it until I found the little shits. I guess the closest to that now would maybe be Jelly Cats. I know people, like, I buy Jelly Cat stuff, not so much anymore, because that shit is expensive as hell. But I'm a sucker for a cute little animal something. So I fall for it. But I feel like that would be probably the closest to, like, Beanie Babies back then. Because Pop Mart's not even really like that anymore. They've made so many and really have capitalized on it. Early 90s to 2000s, you don't see that anymore. Honestly, yeah. I wonder if internet access probably had a lot to do with it. It gave everything a little extra, like, magic, because we couldn't compare it to other shit right away. And had to just sit with it more. Yeah. Because, like, oh my god, I don't know if did you ever get Webkins? Because I also got those growing up, but I didn't get as many of them because they were pricey back then. And I didn't have a computer at home like that. But, like, my cousin, I think my aunt, one of the times I think I had one of my surgeries or something, or I was going through some more, like, medical shit. And they sent me some Webkins. I remember having those too. And now they like relaunched them, but they're kind of ugly. They're expensive. Like they're more expensive than back then. And I'm sure the technology has not changed that much. Or at all, honestly. Drop that. Sense. Honestly, yeah. That makes a lot of sense because I don't remember being into them for that long. And like I don't know that I would have heard about them if my aunt hadn't sent me some. Got them kitty weapons. And they were sick as shit. I'm sure someone's made like a not official version of Webkins by now. Or, oh my god, I was looking at Bionicles with some people the other night. That would be sick to have from that. I never like had Bionicles. I just really like went like my piano teacher I think had some, and then I think other people's like houses. Oh my god. Might have had some. But I remember thinking it was really shit. So that would be the kind of thing I would for sure be buying as an adult. Yes. And honestly, I would wait, I don't know, I'm jumbling my words. I would definitely prefer Bionicles over like the Smart Play Legos that they're making now, that I like refuse to buy. But that like light up and shit or something, I don't know. Let's walk it back a little bit. Yeah, there's like Smart Legos where I think you scan, like there's a little QR code or something on the bottom of the pieces. Or I don't know. They like activate. I think they were a thing with, like earliest with maybe the Mario Legos. And now they're expanding it, so there are a lot of sets that have like Smart Legos now. Yeah. They just seem like a bit much. And also when you introduce stuff like that, I feel like it impacts the longevity of the toy. Because it's like, they are toys too, so like, that would suck as a kid. Imagine you just playing with like your fucking Yoshi set and one day Yoshi dies. Then what? That's kind of fucked up. I'm not gonna use that. And that's depressing. Like, they've made gaming consoles so expensive too, so you don't have like a Game Boy like you used to. It's harder to get for kids. I mean, it was, you know, pricey back then too, but now it's even worse. And then the closest you get is like your little block. That's honestly pretty close in price. Like, I feel like for the price of a really detailed Smart Lego set, you could probably get an Analog Pocket or something for a kid. But that's still a lot. We're losing it. See if there's someone at my house. Oh my god, it's Mary Poppins. Why did I say just kidding? Like, there would ever be a chance that I was being dead ass. How about that? What the hell? I think my thing is sometimes I feel I give the vibe of someone who would think some like wild ass shit is real. So I feel like I have to disclose that I'm joking when I'm joking, or people are gonna be actually like freaked out. I don't know about all that. Arwen. No. Come here. Yeah, I feel like I have the energy or like the vibes of someone who like you would see eating glue and then like I would eat glue and then go around being like, yeah guys, I got so high. I feel like I give that sometimes. Just off rip. And it's weirder that I say, just kidding. And just let it go. Growth. This is 30. After this one, I'm gonna try helping people win. Let's see what happens. So far, I've not seen anyone, like, I think Nintendo is usually pretty good about username moderation. Not seen anyone with, like, wild-ass names. Like, fucked up shit, you know? Like with Battlefield, betas and stuff. Heck, are you gonna be buying this game? We talked about it the other day. Or the other day, it was literally, I think, yesterday in chat. Or no, the day before? The day before, yeah. I streamed yesterday. Yesterday. I'm gonna enunciate. Personal emblems. Oh god. I don't want to think about it, bro. That shit was so cursed. I remember in college, I would play a lot of Black Ops, why did I almost say 6? Black Ops 3, I think. And I remember playing it later at night, like after class and shit, and like work. And I never joined, like, used a mic for that. But then for like Friday the 13th, I was joining all the parties. I got a little more bold, but Call of Duty was terrifying. I'm still shocked they even tried, like, joining voice chats for Destiny. Honestly, probably would have been better off not doing it, but you live and you learn. I'm glad there's not a voice chat for this. I just know a kid would be, like, roasting me for sucking at this game. The, like, trifecta, or you have to, like, navigate, maybe for me, I don't know about for everyone, but especially for people like me, you're, like, going through the Divine Comedy, joining any of these voice chats on, like, online multiplayer games. Because for me, it'd be like, they start out by calling me the F-slur, because of my voice. And then, if they find out that I'm femme, based off reading my name, then they start calling me a bitch. But then I have to say some shit, usually about their father, and then I get hit with the R slur. It's like, wow, we've gone through every ring. At 30 though, it's kind of funny, as long as it doesn't apply to me. Well, like, that's, I mean, as long as it applies to me, then it's whatever. But the fucking moderation on some shit is just wild. But it's really nice then when there's like an actually positive experience. It makes it even sweeter. And honestly, it probably prepared me for Twitter back when like I used Twitter still. Maybe a little bit of a buff. Also, I think if you join like multiplayer chats like this, just for the love of the game, you gotta have a really fucked up mic now. I feel like that would really add to it. Like if the Piranha Plant camera had a mic attached, that'd be pretty good. Kinda perfect. I just keep thinking about too, like I'm sitting here thinking about the whole Mary Poppins Cat in the Hat and Pennywise bit. I'm so excited to fucking deep dive into that when I'm done with stream. It's definitely my plan. And then if I can't find someone who has already done it, bet your ass I'm about to be making a fucking I'm about to write that shit myself. That sounds funny as fuck. Honestly, the like graphic novel or comic possibilities for that too are so good. Although I guess they have to be like different enough. Or just not something that I would expect to ever do anything with. I just do it for the fun. I feel like Rabbit from Winnie the Pooh could be also one of those characters they connect. Based off nothing. I just think energy-wise. Piglet? Nah, Piglet could not be Pennywise, bro. Arguing. Possibility of that is funny. No, Piglet could never be Pennywise because they have anxiety. And they are a homosexual. Piglet as Pennywise? Are you talking about as George? I was talking about as Pennywise. In the water scene. Also, there are a lot of water scenes in this build is pretty good. For now. I don't know why I feel like I need to disagree with you right now, Tack, but I just really feel a calling to say you're wrong. Or I think that you're incorrect. Sorry, I need to say it. Oh yeah, this my ult that I always forget exists. So sick. That'd be a cool amiibo. Big ol' shark. Okay. So we'll go hunt for randos. Okay. I keep feeling like I need to adjust stuff, but I might sent that. Are you talking about So Am I? Because it made sense to me. Look up the basement scene in it. And that's the one you're referring to. I think I know which one you're talking about. In the basement. Let me look at it. Basement E minus AI. Okay, hold on. I'll put it on screen. Trigger warning. Ugly ass clown. That's crappy quality. Hold on. This and fast forward to the basement. Okay. Is this... What the fuck? Why is this quality so bad? Okay. This will just have to do. 720p. Look up this. Hold on. I want to make sure that it's perfect. Good. Under downloads. Oh, here, this is perfect. Trust, you're gonna want to see this. It's gonna like actually change your life. Okay. This. 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 Oh wait, that's the wrong thing. Hold. There. Alright. Here we go. Pulling that up now. Oh, what's that window? That's actually this. Like, look at how shit quality that is. Alright. I think I have the volume. Yeah, I have the volume on. Yeah, that was professionally edited. No worries. Did that work out for you, Tack? You think that really worked? Did it fit? I'm saying, no. Honestly. I think I might do a short stream today and go ahead and end because my offline shit is just stressing me the fuck out and I keep thinking about it. But I will be returning. Yeah, I can't. No, I don't stream tomorrow. Monday, I will try to have something ready to show you guys. It'll be me accumulating my own work on why the Cat in the Hat Mary Poppins, and Pennywise are the same entity, and possibly some other characters. And I'll try to write something up, and maybe I'll even draw something for it to make it make sense. So we'll see. I think it'll be good. And if not, then not. Alright. Good night, guys. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Thanks for spending time with me. Bye-bye.